Let's talk some college basketball, though, with our buddy Tony Harvey back on the drive on a Tuesday. Tony, what's up, man?
Not bad, man. How's it going, man?
It's going well, bro. Everything's good. So the Utes, unfortunately, not good for them. They've lost 5 of 6. They complete their Pac-12 road schedule with 0 road wins.
Unreal, right?
Yeah, I just want to start here, man. Like, obviously, Tony, we know that young teams struggle away from home. Okay, but to me, at this point, it's kind of sounding like too much of an excuse to say it's all youth. They didn't win one Pac-12 road game. It can't all be youth, can it?
I don't. Of course not. I mean, it was funny. Earlier in the season, I think after maybe the second or third road game, I was, sort of joking at work, like, hey, well, can we win away from the Huntsman? We had a couple of big wins at home, and we had a road trip. We're talking about the Pac-12 conference, and I said it, not realizing that, weeks or even a month later, we'll still, be looking at a 0-win season on the road. Honestly, it's inexcusable, to be quite honest. The Pac-12, with all due respect, top to bottom, isn't that good. Where we can say every single venue or every single team, is a knockdown, brawl-out fist fight, and we can expect to walk into a hostile environment every single night. I don't think the Pac-12 is that.
So, Tony, I've been talking about this now for a couple of weeks and asking the opinion of my guests on this as well, and you're very, very uniquely qualified to talk about it because you played for Rick, okay? And so, right. I'm an alumni. University of Utah means something to me. Utah basketball is important to me, and to me, I don't think it's too much to ask your head coach, who you're paying an awful lot of money, to say, hey, we make the tournament here. That's what we do. Okay, I'm not saying Final Fours. I'm not saying. Right. I'm not even saying Sweet 16s, man. But I don't think it's too much to ask of Larry Krystkowiak that he makes the tournament every single year. And look, I know that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. And I want to be very clear. I like Larry a lot as a person. I think he is an elite teacher, as Mark Harlan called him on my show a couple of weeks ago. But, Tony, from your vantage point, what is fair to say about Larry Krystkowiak?
Yeah, so first off, I'll say, I've never been one, especially, in this arena, to question someone's job or the money they make, right? So it's really, you got to be really careful with that.
Sure.
However, I do realize when you make an investment into any business or into any partnership or anything that you do, you expect results. So in every situation, we have two choices. You can either lower your expectations or change your reality. Right. So if we as Utah fans have to decide, are we really willing to lower our expectations? I don't think that's coming anytime soon. So the next step, it would be, let's change our reality. Obviously, the recruiting class that we've had, the recruiting class that we expect to have this upcoming year, that could be a reality change. The challenge will be, can we keep them around? Right. That's always been the challenge. That's another reality we have to either accept or change. And when A.D. Harlan just looks up and decides, the reality is this and what changes need to be made, only he can make that decision to either move on from Coach K or not. I think is a wonderful teacher as far as, the time that I spent around the program, talking to him. I think it's obvious he's a great recruiter. How that translates into retaining talent, something I'm not even uniquely qualified to answer there because I'm not in that locker room. But the truth of the matter is 15-14, I believe it is right now. And, severely under 500 in the conference, I believe is unacceptable from not only an alum, but a basketball player. But now I'm a fan, right? I'm a Utah fan through and through. And I think everybody who not only dons the red, white, and black or, claims to be a Ute fan or supporter can agree, even people within that organization, within that locker room, that what we've seen this year is unacceptable. So I think, really looking at one another in the mirror and saying, how do we change our reality? Because no one's going to change their expectations anytime soon.
Tony Harvey is our guest, former Utah Ute. So, Tony, you're right about the recruiting class. There are 3 kids expected to come in and play right away, and maybe even more than that as far as kids are going to come in and compete. But here's the thing, man, like, what I've been hearing all year is, okay, we're really young. We need to grow.
Right.
Okay, so if you have 3 kids coming in that are going to play right away, maybe a couple of starters, what I don't want to hear a year from now, late February, early March, is, hey, we're too young.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, like,
Absolutely.
I think the tune needs to sound a little different next year, man.
I agree. And, I would say full disclosure, I'm a JUCO guy, right? So when I look at it, I'm thinking to myself, hey, why don't we bring in a 20-year-old junior college incoming junior, right? That guy who's going to come in and bring a little bit of leadership, a little bit of, experience, and not have a team where you're being led by 3 or 4 freshmen and 1 or 2 sophomore going into a conference like the Pac-12. So, yeah, I agree 100%. With that being said, I've been fortunate over the last 3 or 4 days watching a lot of the state tournament games here and seeing some of the local recruits, the guys that we've been, I've been reading about, and some guys I hadn't even heard of. I like their talent. I love what they're doing. I know they have the kid out of Southern California. I believe is 6'3", 6'4" guard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Read a lot about him. I talked to some people that I know back from Southern California. They love him. So that gives me a little bit of hope. But the truth of the matter is they're all the same kind of guy to me. You're a 6'3" swingman guard. You're a young leader in the backcourt. What does that mean to, a team that has, we're full of young leaders in the backcourt, and that's been the excuse or the crush we've sat on for the past couple of years. So for me, I'm thinking it's time to either mature quickly or bring someone in who can do so, or let's turn to another excuse. Because to your point, we can't continue to say, oh, we're young, let's look to next year. Oh, man, guys transfer out. We're bringing in 3 more 3-star, 4-star recruits. We're still going to be young. That doesn't help, because the fact of the matter is there's always Arizona, there's always UCLA. There are these other powerhouse teams in the conference and in the country. They're retooling, they're restacking, and some of these guys are young. So we have to not only stay on par with the rest of the country and the rest of the conference, I think we have to go a step further to reestablish who we are in the in the basketball community, so that it's no longer just an excuse every time something bad goes wrong. We're in Salt Lake City. Recruiting in the Pac-12 is hard. I mean, I've heard it all. Everybody cheats but us. We're young. You know what? It's been that way for a while, and the program has a rich history of winning despite all odds. So I think we need to get back to that.
I'm glad you brought up that you were a JUCO guy, Tony, because I wanted to ask you about Alfonso Plummer, who is also a JUCO guy. And I think a lot of Ute fans, like, he started playing a couple of weeks ago, then he rolls in and knocks down like 5 threes, and everyone's going, well, where's he been? Why hasn't he been playing? And, for a team that really has struggled to score so often, Alfonso seems like a kid that should be playing more. Now, we've learned something about his practice habits, and honestly, like, if he's not hitting shots, I'm not sure what he does. But one of the things he said is, as a JUCO guy, it just took me a while to adjust. Talk about that process as someone who went through the very same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's real. You don't know that it's real until you're probably halfway through it or out the other end. I had my own adjustment challenges coming in. But we all have that. Again, I started out early in the conversation. I don't know what happens behind the scenes. And I say that a lot, whether it's football or about college sports and professional sports. It's one of those monsters that you can look out on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday night, for 2 hours and cast judgments on what decisions the coaches are making or how guys are playing. If you're not there on Friday afternoon or on Thursday at noon and you don't see what goes into film and the pregame work and the preparation, a lot of those things are the reason why guys either are playing or they aren't playing, right? And going back into our, days, I was fielding questions about how good is Andre Miller. I'm looking at my people like, are you serious right now? I mean, I go against this guy every day, so it happens on every single level. I think a kid like Alfonso stayed patient. But again, he's falling into sort of what a lot of our guys are falling. He's a 6'1" swingman. You're a guard. Remind me of a lot of guys I've known growing up or played against or played with. This game is a monster. If you're not big enough to battle and push and get through some of those things, or you're not mentally tough enough to deal with what goes into being a college athlete at the highest level, it will be a challenge. And in certain situations, a lot of the JUCO guys come in equipped to deal with that. There are challenges before you get to the Division I level that a lot of these guys may go through that prepares them for it. And some guys don't. Some guys come in with the challenges that may hinder their advancement. But it's all part of the growth. We're talking about college kids here. I think Alfonso, as long as he can stick with it, and the coaching staff will stick with him, by this time, I wouldn't even say next year, in the summer, it won't be new anymore, right? Everything that you do, you would have done it before, so it becomes a lot easier. Unfortunately, for a guy like this, it'll be your senior year, and it's your last hurrah, right? So, I watch guys, and it makes me wonder what happens behind the scenes, what's happening at practice. There's something that's not clicking with the coaching staff or classroom or any of those other things, and I'm not quick to cast judgment when I see him out on the court or not on the court during the game, because I realize it is a struggle for a lot of guys, and maturity just kind of works that way.
Last thing, Tony, we'll set you loose on this. Unfortunately, the Utes aren't going to the NCAA tournament. I mean, barring some miracle, and that would be an awesome, 30 for 30.
Crazy run.
Oh, yeah, make the 30 for 30 today type thing. Look,
right.
but BYU is, and I think they're really good. And I time-stamped a tweet to check when I actually sent it out. It was the second week of January when I really locked in on them, and I thought to myself, okay, they're good. They can make the tournament, and I think they can win a couple of games. Yep. Since then, they've even improved. They've won 9 straight games, and reputable college basketball voices refer to them as a dark horse Final Four team. I think that's aggressive, but as you've watched them, if they maximize their good and stay healthy and all that, come tournament time, what's best case scenario for BYU?
So I've watched maybe 3 BYU games, including ours here at the Huntsman. I've reached out to my good buddy Chris Burgess a number of times and said, dude, please accept me to a game. I promise I'll wear black or white or whatever, because I've seen them from a distance. I have a lot of friends, family that are, BYU alum or fans. And as a fan of basketball myself, I'm interested in how they're playing. I know they're well coached. They play hard. Even what we've, seen when we were playing against them, they never quit, and they're extremely talented. A team like that is always dangerous in the NCAA tournament. I can imagine, that their preparation is bar none. So when you walk into a tournament situation, especially on a, sort of a long weekend where you'll have 48 hours to prepare, they'll be a tough team to prepare for. Big time inside presence, great guard presence, and well coached, well structured, and BYU will always be a mature team. So in a situation like that, they can walk in and not only stun a lot of teams, I think they can walk in as the expected tough game or favorite, and hold up to that. Their conference has been extremely competitive. They've had some big-time teams at the top of their ticket, so they've had some tough games. So I think they've been challenged. They'll be ready. For me to look at BYU versus Utah and try to say, no, BYU is going to go. No, of course not. And I'm at the belief that if it's not going to be the Utes, I'll take somebody from the Wasatch Front representing the state, representing the area and the region. Hopefully they can go pretty deep into the tournament.
And I'm with you, and hopefully this time next year we'll have you on talking about Utah's chances in the tournament instead of BYU's.
Absolutely, anytime. I think, we'll be back, man. The Utes will be back. They and I hate to even say it, we'll be back. The program is what the program is, and the reality of missing the tournament 2 years in a row, that doesn't sit well with anyone. And like I said before, Coach K, he's a big-time competitor. All of the coaches on the staff and all the players, they know that this isn't acceptable, and I anticipate as soon as the season ends, that very next morning, whether it's workouts or recruiting or getting back in the gym, those guys will be in there working, getting prepared for October and November of next year.
Right on, brother. Hey, thanks for the time today. We appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon as the tourney kind of gets rolling to get your thoughts on what we're seeing, all right?
My pleasure, Skid. I'm always here for you.
Right on, man. Appreciate it.